Good day, my friends. This is Bob from BBD with News with Views, concluding on and carrying on with what my topic yesterday, which was the impact of the change in the administration in the United States on India and the US relationship, specifically in terms of what happens between Pakistan and the United States, and between United States and China. We covered more or less what I thought was going to happen between the United States and Pakistan, right? And my gut feel is that we really have to work a little harder, but we have a number of spots we can actually negate the Pakistan stand and its drama that it will throw up in terms of making us Islamophobia nation. I think we have a number of breaches there. Similarly, also because of the fact that the connect between Pakistan and China offers us a lot of opportunity. Similarly, with what happened with Gilgit and Baltistan, offers an opportunity with the heavy business that we're going to face as far as Kashmir and Article 370 is concerned. However, Modi and Biden finally had a conversation. So another, I guess, nail in Trump's coffin. Another one of his 9 pins falls. So here we go. What did this say? It says and he says what the opportunity, which is actually absolutely true. First is the COVID-19 pandemic. Much of this already exists at the commercial and scientific level, but can be infused with governmental support. This is important because a lot of governmental support is going to come in the United States, and this can only have an advantage to a lot of our pharmaceutical companies and development in India. Second very critical one, as I've always said, is the climate. It says the second one is with considerable long-term potential is climate. PM Modi is committed to move India to a green energy trajectory, but needs international support in terms of finance and technology. And there is a whole bunch of funds available for renewable, folks. We know that it's a space is singing. India should ensure that the United States joins the International Solar Alliance. This can only give a leg up to both manufacturing in the United States, manufacturing in India, and to renewables. And finally, it says, India and the US need to share notes on the vision of the Indo-Pacific, shorthand for how to handle an openly aggressive China. Here, but a lot of our analysts continue to say that India is critical for the United States to counter China. But forget that. For India to stand up at this stage because of an economy that's in shambles and is not growing at the speed we should have, and the fact that we've gutted investment in defense, we need the US a lot more than the US needs us, and that was quite apparent with the way India was running to Russia for equipment when this forecast with China started. But anyway, what's going to be troublesome? During call with PM Modi, Biden spoke of strengthening democracy in US and abroad. What's critical here is, again, the issues of democracy and what you should, Modi, while congratulating Biden on his election, described it as a testament to the strength of the resilience of democratic traditions in the United States. What he's alluding to is the forecast that's going on in the US, and the Trump not acknowledging the presidency, etc. But we should be very careful on that, because at the end of the day, I think that that's the true colors of democracy actually showing up, and there had to be a fight because it's a globally divided world, right? But what did Biden say? Assumes significance in this context of the Biden campaign's underlining of shared democratic values, fair and free elections, equality under the law, and the freedom of expression and religion. He says, because what it says is, during call with PM Modi, Biden spoke of strengthening in democracy, US and abroad. But what can help us in this space, right, is the fact that obviously Biden is going to be a transatlantic focus, right? So it says, we have an article by Hiko Ma saying Joe Biden can make transatlantic unity possible. But while he's doing that, Biden is going to have to worry about what's happening in Europe, and which is going to allow us again some space to breathe. Here's an article which says Austria, France push to quell Islamists. After recent terrorist attacks, leaders seek unified EU procedures to combat extremists. And then you have a note by Roger Boyes, West can't ignore Macron's call to action. We should back the French president's defense of secularism in the face of religious separatism. And here is where India has a space. India really can use at least our democracy by improving the atmosphere for our minorities, and also be able to use what the West is facing, especially Europe, in terms of Islamic terrorism, to kind of counter the kind of expected onslaught from the democratic house. Folks, here are the regions where the Indian and American strategic objectives have find a confluence, and we should continue to play those and try and put all the disagreements for which there are going to be many in the background. The first one is this, an article by Razul Lashkar, Indian Pacific Ocean's key to US plans for reviving naval formation. It goes on to say, this is very interesting, the US Navy plans to revive a tactical formation that will focus on the Indian and Pacific Ocean and work with partners such as India and Singapore to cope with the potential contingencies, a top American naval defense official said. And what is it? The first fleet, which will be one of the US Navy's numbered fleets or major tactical units, could be based out of Singapore in the long run, said Braithwaite. Hey, why don't we take a leap of faith? Let us develop the Andamans and Nicobar as the headquarter for the Quads, a thought for which the time has come. The other thing that we get to keep going after with the world and sending the message towards the US is this: Modi slams Pak as terror. Vaccine top BRICS agenda. Vaccine, there's a lot of collaboration between India and the United States, whether it is the Baylor universities working with somebody in Hyderabad, etc. The government needs to continue to harden its stance against technology. Government may amend license norms to bar critical telecom gear from China. This is just about time they barred it, right? And look at what China says. Will discuss with India Xi's offer of cooperation on vaccine. Now take a look at this. The way this is positioned. Will discuss. I mean, as if it's their lordship or the Middle Kingdom or Xi is the king. China needs a reality check, and folks, the only person who can give it to them currently is India, having kept out of the BRI, and now everybody else has understood why we kept out of it, having faced them down in the Himalayas. We are the only ones folks standing tall as of now. Folks, now the concluding bit on how the US and India relationship is going to go, linked on what's going to happen, as most analysts are saying, is a lot is going to depend on what US does with China. Here, let me just say that I see, my own opinion is that while the tone might change slightly, the content will stay more or less the same. The US, both sides of the aisle, including President Biden, have confirmed and said that clearly that China is a competitor. China not only is a competitor and must be stopped, it is something that is not going to change despite what she might think, right? So let's see what's happening in the private as Pompeo plans to leave. He says he's pushing measures designed to keep the United States and China on a confrontational course. These efforts include doubling down on the intelligence community's new focus on China, taking steps against China's fishing policy, and likely introducing new limits on imports of Chinese products, especially technology. All right, folks. And Manoj Keval Ramani writes, China wants a reset with Biden, but won't change its approach. China won't, because it thinks it's sitting right on top, right? And they're worried though, because as what Trump will do in his last few days, as last week State Department removed the East Turkestan Islamic Movement, a group that China blames for terrorism in Xinjiang, from its list of designated terrorist groups. This was followed by an executive order prohibiting American companies and individuals from investing in select Chinese companies identified as enabling the People's Liberation Army. And that might end up being a whole bunch of people, right? Trump's Commerce Department is reportedly preparing harsher measures. Okay. All right, then here we go. Moreover, there's a belief in China that Biden will repair ties with Europe and coordinate China policy with traditional U.S. allies. And that's exactly what's going to happen, right? For instance, Biden reportedly told Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga that the security to the Senkaku Island would fall under the ambit of the Security Alliance. And that has them worried. And also the new alliance that was announced 2 days ago between Australia and Japan. Very critical. And also, European Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell, meanwhile, was quick to call for cooperation with Biden's team to craft a coherent and robust Chinese stance. And this is where India has a huge space to play with it. And there is little self-reflection that Beijing's policy have and continue to contribute to external hostility. They don't care, right? They really don't. In a sense, China's views a reset with Biden as welcome, but it is unlikely to change its policy. What does China can expect from Biden? US may seek areas of cooperation, but also add pressure with a united front of allies. Where do they expect some cooperation is probably climate change. Where do they expect pressure is absolutely in terms of human rights, and then Xinjiang will come into play and probably Tibet, right? And while Biden leaves, it's written that Biden faces toxic tussle with China, but hey, what the hell matters, man? That is the reality. As it says, in a speech on Monday, Mr. Biden promised to make significant investments into American industry, including $300 billion in technology industries that he said would create 3 million good-paying jobs, as well as channeling more government dollars into purchasing American products like automobiles and pharmaceuticals. Here, a threat to Chinese manufacturing, but also a threat to India. But India can play itself into as a supply chain in option to China. We are going to invest in American workers and make them more competitive, Mr. Biden said. He added that he would ensure that labor unions and environmental groups were at the table in any trade negotiation, push for the United States rather than China to set the world's trading rules along with other democracies. India in play. The idea that we are poking our finger in the eye of our friends and embracing autocrats makes no sense to me. Important. And as he says, Biden likely to remain tough on Chinese tech. He says, but overall, the chip sector isn't expecting broad changes into China policy under Biden. He said the semiconductor industry interview. It's clear to us there is continued muscular approach to China in the cards, and what may change, it sounds like the tone may change, and that's it. And that's where what we are doing also becomes critical. Government may amend license norms to bar critical telecom gear from China. Because of what the United States is doing, there is a crazy tech race with US turbocharges China chip manufacturing frenzy. US fuels China chip effort. Here the US can also act as a damper by ensuring that software required for chip technology is limited, and also the machines that make the chips, and here Japan becomes critical. As Pompeo launched the attack on, the Trump administration launched the attack on not allowing investment in Chinese companies. Here we have Chinese debt falls on new US curves and will continue to fall. India can play a huge role here to counter China as China extends reach in the Caribbean, unsettling the US. And they're trying to make all kinds of play in Jamaica, folks. Here, India, with its old relationships, put it together with the United Kingdom, should come into play and help China out. And help the United States out. Here's another article which should sing and be music to India's ears, as what is happening in Canada, reported by Robert Fife and Stephen Chase from Ottawa. Ottawa poised to act against China's interference, says Champagne. Minister vows a comprehensive plan to work to stop Chinese agents as pressure mounts on Huawei decision. Here, with the change in administration in the United States, with Biden, now a multilateral force and coordination and concerted effort will develop against China. China should be worried. There should be music to India's ears. And it's important for us to note now, right? The change in the administration in the US is going to do. Now the willing democracies can actually form a huge bulk, which are probably the largest economies, the maximum suppliers of technologies, to come together and block China's aspirations to become a global leader in technology, but with a real nefarious design. They're designed to control and convolute and corrupt systems globally. Good for India. Jai Hind.